So today I'm just going to talk about a topic which is very, very near to our heart, is feeding the heart. And if your heart is good, then you are hearty, you're happy, right? And sometimes you're very sad. And so you can see that the whole body changes because of the emotions. So my next slide shows on the what I'm going to present today is very basically simple things. It's a basic introduction, looking at what we need to practice is mindful eating. I think many of us do forget that. What is this all about? We just eat for fun, and when the food is complimentary, we just eat for 2 days, you know, that kind of things. So we're going to talk about mindful eating and what are the functional foods that we find in our food. We got a lot of good things in our food, but it depends on how we cook it, how we present it, and what are the heart protective food that we have, and how do we eat that on a plate. And I think many of you are familiar with the Malaysian healthy plate, which I like to say it in Bahasa Malaysia, is Suku-suku Separuh. And then we'll talk a little bit about that and what are the moderation. Why? I mean, there's no such thing as we can't eat this, we can't eat that, but we need to moderate, like saturated, trans fats, salt, and sugar. And then I'll end it up with a take-home message. So good or bad food? What do you think? You think there are such thing as good or bad food? Even good food you eat too much also becomes a problem for you. So what does the academy say? There's no such thing as good or bad food, but you have good or bad diets or habits. You know, so there's a Malay saying, bagaimana acuan begitulah kue dia. If your parents have been eating this kind of food, this kind of habits, then you follow that habits. And then when you get married, you follow your husband or wife's family's eating habits. And then eventually you wonder why you put on so much weight, why are you disease prone? Because if you turn back and look at it, it was not the thing of good or bad food, but it was just good or bad diets, right? So I want to introduce to you mindful eating. It's very important that when we eat, we pay attention to our food on purpose, moment by moment, without judgment. I mean, it's looking at your share markets, looking at your fixed deposit, where do you want to put your unit trust? It's the same thing. You pay attention to that, so you pay attention to your food. And it's a kind of approach, right? It's a kind of approach that focus, wow, how do I feel this message? Wow, when I think of Roja, how do I feel? Oh, when I think of ice cream or chocolates, you know, how do I feel, right? And the experience of the food. And also it has little to do with calories, carbohydrates, fats, and protein. Now, in my years of practice, I believe one thing, don't go lopsided looking at calories, carbohydrates, fats, protein, and then you miss the joy of eating, right? And the intention is to help individuals savor. That means whenever you eat, just enjoy, take your time, and then have that fantastic experience of eating. So there are 5 S in mindful eating. I thought this is easier for you to understand. Number 1 is, whenever you want to eat, please sit down. It doesn't matter, like a dining table or a counter. You know, don't walk and eat, don't run and eat, don't drive and eat, because sometimes the focus goes haywire. And learn to chew. Now, I noticed in the recent years, people actually forgot how to use their teeth to chew. They actually gobble the food down. And that is really not helpful to your esophagus and stomach, because your mouth is the first part that chews your food, and then you help the stomach even to further grind the food. But if you don't do the chewing well, then the stomach is going to have a big issue. So when you you do chewing slowly, some people, they like to use their non-dominant hands. Of course, many people will not use their left hand, but sometimes they use chopsticks. So this actually helps you to have smaller amount of food. And then savor. When you eat something, enjoy it, smell it, taste it, and just eat, enjoy it. But you must always remember, small bites and simplify things. Please don't put food available at your table or at your counter. Then you know, when you look at it, well, actually you're not hungry, but you're so tempted. So when the food is out of sight, it's also out of mind, because you're thinking of something else. And smile. Sounds funny, huh? How do you smile when you're eating? Huh? No, after you eat, you show a happy face of satisfaction. That's what it means, right? So what is functional food? If you look at functional food, it's actually, it's something in one of those food that actually enhance your body by reducing the risk. So what is it? So you have heard of oats and barley. So what is the functional food there? It's beta glucan. So this one, the beta glucan is the one that actually has the power to reduce the risk of the disease. But that doesn't mean that every day you eat oats, every day you drink barley. So you have to have a variety. And then we have plant steroids, which is fortified in margarine and in milk. And then we also have soya protein, tempeh, tofu, soya beans. So these are all what we call functional food that has a response can reduce the heart disease. And besides that, we have heart protective food. What is heart protective food? When the more you eat, and when you say more, in moderation, balance, these foods actually will become your powerful weapons against other issues, like they protect your heart, they protect your organs. So basically, if you notice, they are mostly plant-based. So they can be fruits and vegetables, they can be whole grain, they can be legume, nuts and seeds, and fish. And I know when I was talking to one of my patients, they asked me, so does durian come into this category? What do you think? Yes, it does, but there is an amount. You eat 2 seeds, not 2 fruits, right? So then it makes a difference, right? So let's look at some of these things that we have, right? How do we manage all these food? How do we eat this? So I'm sure you have seen this Malaysian healthy plate. It's called Suku-suku Separuh, right? Quarter, half. What it tells you is, if you look at this picture, it tells you that you eat fruits and vegetables more, and the other half is divided quarter, which is more proteins, and the other quarter is carbohydrate. Now, I must admit to you that this, when they first introduced, even as a dietitian, when I tried, was tough. So was it with my clients and my patients. Why? Because the half that you see, the fruits and vegetables, it was their rice portion earlier. So suddenly when they have to cut it down, I understand, like, it's not easy. But, you know, behavior changes take some time. So you give yourself about 6 weeks and then about 2-3 months. And now many people tell me, yeah, you're right, I can practice it. So the question comes is, why this Suku-suku Separuh? Why this half plate full of fruits and vegetables? Actually, all these studies on heart healthy originated from diets, such as the DASH diet, which is dietary approaches to stop hypertension. And then you have the Mediterranean diet in the Mediterranean lands. Also, very good outcomes when patients were on, people were on these diets, they had less incidence of cardiovascular diseases. And then now you have the portfolio diet. But when you look at all these diets, the story is very simple. It's a lot of plant-based, nuts, the good type of fats, and then it also has whole grain, right? So, and then when we put it on, so these are some examples that we took where people actually practice it. So what they did is they went and bought these plates and they started eating like this, and they did lose a lot of weight and they became, but you see, the good part of this Suku-suku Separuh is you can put whatever you like in that portions. Yeah, sometimes you say, never mind, I want to eat some fried stuff, but it's okay, like you can eat the protein fried, but it is in the smaller portion, right? So these are some things that you can actually practice. Initially, when you do it, I must say it's not easy, but eventually it's very, very simple, okay? So grains, Malaysians, we are rice eaters and then we are noodle eaters. So grains are very important. Everybody said, no, I don't touch carbohydrates. I don't eat anything. Excuse me. You need a little bit of carbohydrates for your brains to function. Because if you don't have carbohydrates, where's the brain going to get the glucose from, right? Of course, you can have whole grains. Some people don't like whole grains because they say it's too chewy. Yeah, because it's full of the fiber. And fiber is pretty chewy. But the good thing about fiber is when you start chewing it and when you start eating it, it actually gives you a satiety, a feeling of fullness, right? So what are the examples? In Malaysia, we can get brown rice, we can get whole meal bread, noodles, oats, barley, grain, quite a lot of things we can get now in Malaysia. So if you don't like it, you put half white rice, half brown rice and cook it, and you can see a difference. And I always tell my patients, remember, dietary fiber, whole grain products, they're actually a broom and vacuum. So they actually clean your vessels, your body, and makes it really good. So try to enjoy this in moderation. And what are the benefits? It lowers your heart disease, especially the total cholesterol. In diabetes, however, there's only small reduction in fasting blood glucose and HbA1c. And of course, it reduces obesity because it increases your satiety. Satiety means the feeling of fullness after eating a small amount of food. And whole grains have got more fiber. The next one we come to is protein. Now, what are proteins? Everybody loves this. This one, no problem in Malaysia because we have lots of protein. We have fish, chicken, we have duck, we have goose, you name it. Then we have the second group of protein, which is plant protein. Okay, but there's also a third group, which you may not realize, which is highly processed meats. So the first protein is animal-based. Is there anything wrong with it? No. Lean meat, chicken without skin, right? You can have it. Plus, you must make sure it's Suku-suku Separuh, right? Plant proteins, very good, beneficial, high in fiber. But many of the Malaysians like to consume these processed meats like bacon, sausages, ham, lots of processed, lapchong, the Chinese sausages. And this is where we get into trouble because all these are highly processed. They've got lots of fat and salt. Then, how do we fill fruits and vegetables? Now, everybody will think, oh, I can eat any amount. Some people say, actually, I never take sugar. But when you see their diet, they'll be having 2 bowls of fruits. Is it bad? Well, you need to put it into a control. That means everything fits into the plan. So actually, when we talk about vegetable, 1 serving is, if it's raw, it's 1 cup. But if it's cooked, it's half cup. So if you take 2 half cups of cooked vegetable, there's no harm. But the fruits have a portion, like 1 apple, 1 orange, 2 seeds of durian, maybe 6 grapes, depending on the size. So you can actually fill up. Now, one thing, when my clients ask me what kind of fruits and vegetables, I only talk about color, rainbow, rainbow colors. You're familiar with those colors. So let's have a rainbow of fruits, rainbow of vegetables, right? And then you may tell me, oh, it's so expensive. No, they're not. Because you can actually sort out in the markets for a variety of it, and they are seasonal, right? So you can actually have a lots of fruits and vegetables seasonally also, and it provides fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Now, these fruits and vegetables, they have phytonutrient. What are they? These are your soldiers that fight the inflammation. So whenever they see a fight, then they say, let's attack, bring down the inflammation. Okay, so sometimes, you have a bit of swelling here, you have problems with your knees, you have a problem this is because of inflammation. So these phytochemicals like beta-carotene, lycopene, lutein, and all these are available in a variety of fruits and vegetables. That's why I'm asking you to eat colorful rainbow fruits and vegetables, and then enjoy it, right? So these are examples of, there are lots of other examples, but these are the main ones that I'm talking about. Then we come to the portion. How much is enough? That is always a question, sometimes when you like certain food, you just eat and eat and eat. Sometimes I also get that. I mean, we all can fall into that category. So one thing is, when you're eating grains that cook rice, it's like 1 cup. That's a serving. 2 slices of bread is a serving. Of course, when you see a dietitian, she will explain to you how many servings you can have, how many portions you can have. Fruits is 1 medium, whole or half cut. Then you have proteins, approximately your palm size. It's very easy. So it's a chicken drumstick, it's a 1 slice of fish, or ikan kembung is 1 piece. Vegetable is cooked, 1 cup raw or half cup cooked. And normally if it is in your hands, it's like both palms together, right? So you notice that the vegetables and fruits are quite important. So what comes to moderation? What is moderation? It's quite a subjective thing. Moderation means what? So what we tell them is, we go back to the plate, Suku-suku Separuh, right? There it tells you how much you can eat. But you see there is no place there for saturated fat or salt-rich foods or sugar. So we are looking at saturated and trans fats. Saturated fats are fats that are in processed cut meats And then you have butter and tropical oils and confectioneries are like your cakes and your pastry. Trans fats are fats that are hydrogenated during the process to keep its shelf life and to make pastries and things like hard, like shortening and things like that. Now, sodium is very common in flavoring and sauces. It's also in dried salted food, snacks, and processed meat. And finally, sugar. I mean, sometimes patients tell me, actually, one, I don't take any sugars, but they drink fruit juice concentrate. So that is also sugar. So we need to actually look at all this. So let's look at the first one. Limit the intake of saturated and trans fat. So these are processed food. We go to seafood, fish, poultry, less, take out the skin, no more fat, lentils, legume, and processed and fatty cuts of meat, right? And then we can actually look for for butter, tropical oils, we can look for vegetable-based oil and olive oil or blended palm oil. I need to tell you something, whichever oils are healthy, it doesn't mean you drink the oil. Huh? Oils are meant to be just used for like stir frying. And normally I don't advise patients to drink oil, you drink water, right? And confectioneries are a lot of things with preservatives and sugars and a lot of fructose syrups and things like that. So you may want to change these snacks to like beans, you can have like pals, you can have like smaller amounts of nuts and things like that. So sometimes we need to change the way we have been eating. In case we have heart disease or things or diabetes, we need to make a change. And then we minimize fat in cooking. So nowadays, most of them with the COVID and all this, they are cooking a lot more, but also they are also ordering food online. So there are different methods of cooking, like stewing, boiling, the G's, baking, grilling, steaming, stir frying, pan frying. And I'm sure air frying is very common now. And I'm sure at any one time you would have eaten anything like this. But I must tell you something. There was one occasion when I explained to the patient about baking and grilling, and he was very happy. But then when he sent me the photo, the baking had enough of oil to bake. The grilling had so much of oil. So it defeats the purpose. These methods actually use very little oil. Okay. Now, limit high-fat food and choose food with less fat. So if you like deep-fried fish, you can go for asam pedas fish, ikan bakar, or ikan singa. That does not mean that you cannot eat fried fish. So most of the time, 80% you practice, but there's a 20%, it's called cheat time. That's okay, but you can't cheat all the while. Then, you'll have a battle against your bellies, right? Deep fried chicken, then you can go for baked chicken and tom yum chicken. When you deep fat fry, it's also advisable not to, put too much of coating and batter because you increase the surface area. So when you increase the surface area, it actually absorbs more oil. So sometimes when you feel like frying something, you just marinate it with all your spices and quickly deep fat fry it. Instead of coating it with breadcrumbs, with eggs, with batter, then you actually absorb more oil. And then what about nasi banjir? Many people like this way of eating where the rice is flooded. So the more you flood the rice, the more the gravy is there, so the calories will increase. So maybe you have a small amount of gravy. I don't think some people cannot eat with gravy. I do agree. So you have small amounts of gravy. And fried food and roti chana and prata, you can maybe change soupy food. And then you can have thosai. But having said thosai, please don't order ghee thosai or oily thosai. That defeats the purpose too. But I'm always a person, as a dietitian, I believe that you must enjoy your food and, don't look sad about it. And then look at the salt. We have a lot of salty food, a lot of salt in terms of artificial flavoring and sauce have come into the Malaysian market. A lot of processed meat, a lot of salted stuff which you can go. And actually, when you read all those snacks, there's a lot of salt. So I don't know how many, most of my patients, quite a number of them, the young wives, they're not really good at the kitchen and they can't cook well. So if you need to do some small cooking classes, please go ahead and enjoy yourself. But we can actually have herbs and spices. We can have natural flavorings and using fresh ingredients, and try to be adventurous. And then you need to read labels. I think many of us, when we buy canned food, we don't realize what we are buying. But if you know how to read the label, it's very beneficial. So if you look at this product, for 100 grams, it's 120 milligrams of sodium. But if I want sodium free, it should only have 5 milligrams per 100 grams. Now this product has 120 milligrams, which means it is low sodium product, right? So there is a table that you can refer. Normally when you see a dietitian, they will explain this to you, okay? The next category is sugar, One thing I must tell you, certain food, like you can drink plain tea, but want to drink coffee, you need a little bit of sugar. So what I'm talking about is, WHO actually recommends about 6 teaspoons per day, but what I am concerned here is when my patients tell me what snacks they have, what kind of pastries they have, and biscuits they have, this is where we see free sugars or hidden sugars, right? So let's look at some of those. These are just some examples, right? Some biscuits, some kaya buns, some jam, some chili sauces, some soya sauce, some condensed milk, one piece of a kind of biscuit or kueh. So if you say 6 teaspoons, so if I take one kueh, say 2 teaspoons, then maybe I use 1 tablespoon for some of my drinks or whatever it is, then there is already 2. So you notice that eventually, end of the day, you may surpass the 6 teaspoon. So how do you do this? I know many of you say you order kurang manis, but is it really kurang manis? So that's another question that we ask. And then sometimes when you want to eat certain things, do you have to dip it in sauce? Do you have to put extra jam? Do you have to do things like, for example, if I want bun, maybe I would like to take a savory bun instead of a sweet bun. So there are thoughts that you can actually put in, as what I said in mindful eating. It's very important that you start thinking very, very seriously about what you're eating, because healthcare is very expensive, and getting into a hospital is also very expensive. So you need to look after yourself, okay? These are hidden sugars in beverages, right? So you can have the 3-in-1 drinks. Easily they can have 3 teaspoons. Then this is carbonated drinks. The famous bubble teas. People love them now. Isotonic drinks, and then syrup, bandung, and teh tarik. So you need to really understand where your sugars are coming from. And if you say, I don't take sugars, it cannot be the truth. We all do take some form of sugars, okay? So normally when I want to make people understand, if I look at the label, so if you look at this label, you can see sugar, you can see glucose syrup, then you can see a lot of things which explains to you about sugar, fructose, flavoring. So we don't know. Now, if you look at this product, can you imagine 101 things, right? So many things. The more the ingredients in the product, you have to be a bit more careful, because you are not actually taking a natural, but it's a lot of different things that's happening. So if you look at this, you have like sugar, you have glucose syrup, you have stabilizer, anti-caking agents, so many stuffs. And this is actually a coffee drink, right? But you're supposed to drink coffee, but you're drinking all sorts of things added to it, okay? Now, before I just end, I want to ask you all to go to this YouTube and watch our Hari Raya 2021 cooking show. Here we did a difference for Hari Raya and Buka Puasa. Doesn't matter whether you celebrate or not, but you can actually enjoy these 5 amazing recipes that we have done on behalf of the dietetic department of CVSKL. So with me are my colleagues, Miss Min Hui and Miss Lin, and they actually helped in this production, and I want you all to go and enjoy this and see the difference. So let's recap. When we were talking about what we went through within this half an hour, it's like we sit down. When I'm talking about mindful eating, we sit down, we sit down and eat the food. Don't run. Chew. Slowly we chew, right? Enjoy the food. We savor the food, the smell, the aroma, the texture. And then we simplify it. That means don't put food near anywhere. Your table is your work table, not your food table. And then smile. Enjoy the food and smile. Don't feel guilty, right? And then functional food. We have certain food that gives you very, very good bioactive agents in it that can actually protect your heart. And then we have protective food, which means it happens like you take all the foods, fruits, vegetables, whole grain, even good oils, and all this, it can protect your heart, and try to become practicing the Malaysian healthy plate, which is Suku-suku Separuh. This is something most of my patients have attempted and worked well. You don't have to feel guilty. Sometimes you have a fried fish or fried chicken, it's fine, but it is a part of the diet. And then we talked about moderation, saturated fat, trans fat, salt, and sugar, right? So with this, I would like to just let you know, from now on, can you be aware of what you put in your mouth? This is called mindful eating. Just think, hey, do I need this? But I just had my tea at 4 o'clock. Why am I eating at 5 o'clock? Start thinking, become aware. Enjoy a variety of food in moderation, balance, using the healthy plate to control your portions. And basically, you're accountable for the well-being of your body, right? You should look after your body, not somebody else. So with this, I would like to say that if you have a problem with your diet, like what Dr. Lawrence said just now, if you have a problem with your heart, you see a cardiologist. So if you have a problem with your diet, you can refer yourself to a dietitian from your doctors, and we can actually help you to plan and see whether, and maybe put you in the right track, or maybe you're on the right track and just confirm it. So thank you very much on behalf of Sanofi and Caring Pharmacy. Thank you very much for giving me this wonderful opportunity.